transforming lives.
Very warm welcome to the Mid-Morning Park. Thank you so much. You are watching MBCI TV, and we are right here to unpack what has been happening in the country and also maybe across our 47 counties in the last 1 week. And it's always a pleasure to have you in this particular show. And of course, also a pleasure to have my co-host Paul Kagi right here with me. Kagi, how are you doing?
Fantastic. How are you, Mangicho? Good morning.
Good morning to you. It's good to see you today. How's the week been?
It has been fine. Quite a sunny week.
Okay.
As most of the parts of the country are experiencing some sunny season.
Yes.
But we're thankful to God because we are here. And dear viewer, I hope everything is working out well for you. And welcome to the Mid-Morning Park this Wednesday, the 12th day of July 2023. My name is Paul Kagi. Stay tuned.
And I'm Mangicho Mola, and of course, a pleasure to have you. This is your weekly show where we bring you weighty matters and have a candid conversation on the same, and just to see what kind of direction is our country taking, and also having some guests to help us to discuss quite a number of these nitty-gritties on these particular topics taking place, or these particular subjects happening in the country. And today, our main area of focus, our dear viewer, because we would also want you to participate and also to give us your opinions. Today, the main story that we're going to look at, or the main area of discussion that we want to tackle, is government and opposition rift over the mass protest. Government and opposition rift. Of course, there is a row between the government and the opposition over the mass protest, or what you can actually call the fresh mass protest that were called for by the opposition. We remember that last Friday we had this particular protest, and according to government sources, 6 people perished, or 6 people died as a result of these particular demonstrations. But still, the opposition insisted that today they will still go back to the streets, or they'll still hold this particular protest. The government on its side remaining adamant that they are not going to allow this protest, especially considering that they have been seen to cause chaos, loss of lives, and also loss of property. Now, when you have these two sides taking these very, very firm positions, what do we expect? That is something that we want to discuss today. And later on, we are expecting to have an advocate or a lawyer who is going to join us. That is Wakili Kipkoech Ngetich, who will be with us. And we are expecting that he's going to help us to see what are some of the issues that are very, very important, even as we try to analyze whether these protests are important and what needs to be done, so that at least we can have sobriety, we can have unity, and also we can have calmness in the nation, even as we also think about the tough economic season that we have been undergoing as a country. So you can stay tuned for this particular discussion. And of course, we always want you to interact with us, to also join us in this particular conversation. We don't want you to be left out. And therefore, we have a question that we are putting out to you today, so that at least you can give us your opinion on the same. The question we are asking is, what is your opinion on the call for fresh mass protests by the opposition? Our dear viewer, what do you think? What is your opinion about this fresh round of protests or mass protests as called for by the opposition? Do you think they are important? Do you think they are beneficial to the country? If you think yes, then why do you think, or why do you take that particular position? If you think no, or you're against, then also feel free to tell us why you think they are not adding any significance as far as our country is concerned. Of course, you know the drill. You can catch us live on our social media pages: Facebook, that is MBCI TV, and also YouTube, that is MBCI TV Official. You can drop a comment or two on the same. You can also give us your reflections on our shortcut platform. Our number is 23814. 23814. And of course, as we continue with the conversation, we'll be glad to also see some of your feedback on the same, as you even catch, or as you even look forward for this candid conversation on this particular topic. But maybe before we reach there, Kagi, quite a number of other issues of interest across this particular 1 week.
Yeah.
Maybe we can still highlight quite a number of them.
Yeah, correct. And as usual, dear viewer, all the time we have some highlights for you on what is happening in our country for the last maybe 1 week or something like that. And we are going to look at several issues that have come up, and I believe that you are going to be more enlightened. I think the first one, Mangicho, we can start with religious matters,
right,
whereby the CS for Internal Security, Kithure Kindiki, yesterday said that it is the worst security breach in the country, the matter regarding to Shakahola. Mm-hmm. We know the activity of retrieving more bodies is ongoing in that area. And yesterday, when he met the senatorial committee led by Honorable Mungatana, he apologized to the Kenyans, to the society, on behalf of security agencies for what happened in that place. And he admitted that this matter was due to security ignorance. You know, even some judicial officers will not be able to follow due process when handling Mackenzie. And he is saying that anybody who will be found culpable,
right,
whether in the office or not, you must face the full force of the law.
Yeah. And
it's something that the government should take to the full seriousness to be able to avoid the revert of such kind of a matter in this country. And we believe the judiciary is going to handle this matter with more seriousness to be able to know what transpired.
Okay.
Where did we come from to reach here today? There are many people who need to be maybe revealed, who are there, who are involved. And as he said, it was a serious breach of security in our country.
Exactly. Kagi, I think I concur. And listening to what Waziri, the CS for Security, said,
yeah,
I think there is a lot of there is a lot of reasons for actually to support what the CS is saying, because, and this is something that has also actually been in the public limelight, because one thing that Kenyans have been made to know or to understand is that it is not something that this particular person, Paul Mackenzie, started recently. This is something, or this is a practice that is actually been undertaking for a very long time, maybe for more than 2 years. And we've even seen quite a number of leaders. I remember there is a clip that I saw, I think, of former Malindi MP, Aisha Juma, now a CS, actually complaining of some of the activities of this particular preacher, quote in quotes.
Yeah.
And one of the questions that maybe most people have been asking is, how comes there was no any intelligence, even as Mackenzie did all these atrocities? How comes with the intelligence that we know we have in the nation, how comes they were not aware? How is it possible that they were not informed of these particular atrocities? And of course, now this leads to one maybe of the most probable conclusions, is that could it be possible that some people, some individuals in the security sector, some individuals maybe even in the legal or maybe even the judiciary sector, could it be possible that maybe 1 or 2 people were compromised, and this is why we had Mackenzie maybe having his way, even as he continued maybe to commit all these particular evils?
Yes, it's unfortunate, but I think the most people who need to be followed up are the security apparatus and security agencies on the ground, or what we call mashinani team, because in that area we have as little office as for assistant chief. We have a chief office there who are directly maybe involved in following up what is happening on the ground. And the security of this land is architected in a way that we have many, not only police stations, Mangicho, we have what we call the police posts. And the police posts are meant to go right in the villages,
right,
where they can be able to monitor what is happening. And you know, they have been very instrumental in, as you're saying, to be able to pass all the intelligence that are needed in a country. And as Kithure has said, anybody who was found, who will be found to be responsible, whether in government today or you are in government, you must face the full force of the law.
Exactly. Let us wait and see, because now it is one thing for them maybe to say like that, and it's also something else maybe now for us to be able to see whether these actions are actually going to be taken. But I think it is very, very important for an action to be taken.
Yes, another matter happening in Nairobi. Yesterday, the county of Nairobi passed its finance bill, which was signed by Governor Sakaja. And one interesting matter, which also touches on religion, is that street preachers to pay 1,000 daily to the county. Yeah, if you want to go and do any preaching in Nairobi, whether it is in Jivanji, whether it is in Uhuru Park, you need to pay 1,000 per day. That is what has been passed. And if you want to use maybe the bigger fields like Kamukunji grounds, you have to pay 20,000 shillings per day if you want to use that field. And we know that before the renovation of Uhuru Park and Central Park, the preachers used to visit those areas more often. But for now, the new law has come that before you go to do any kind of gospel within the city, you have to go to the office of the county and pay 1,000 shillings. Yeah, so I believe it's a way of collecting revenue for the county, all right?
Yes.
And they're also saying they are targeting in the plan to politicians holding rallies in famous Kamukunji grounds who will be required to pay 100,000 shillings per day.
I think that is something that, of course, will be welcomed maybe in quite mixed reactions. Maybe some people will think that maybe those charges are quite high. But I think we are in a season whereby the government is, to some people, will seem maybe to be quite creative and trying to see or trying to come up with avenues, trying to come up with ways in which maybe it will be possible maybe to just find out how maybe they can raise some more money. Like you said, I also saw maybe for musicians at Uhuru Park, they'll be charged, I don't know, is it 5,000?
Yeah.
Maybe to do a particular recording. I don't know whether it is per hour or per day, but I think I saw something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah, it's something that maybe people will continue maybe to be debating to see about.
Yeah, there was an MP called Peter Kaluma who had a proposal or a bill he wanted to take to Parliament. This bill is proposing that even though you may be taken to the EACC, even if your case has been going on, or maybe you're faulted by EACC, nobody should be stopped from vying for any position. And therefore, the East African Court of Justice Judge and former Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission Justice Aaron Ringera has faulted that proposal, and is saying this proposal is allowing corrupt convicts to run for political office is not correct for now, you know. And he is saying that this is a way of maybe giving the politicians or people who have been found to be corrupt to continue doing their mischiefs in the country by law, allowing them to continue. So he is not comfortable with the bill, and we are waiting to see whether the Kaluma's bill is going to continue in Parliament. And we know the matter of EACC has not been easy in our country. There has been a lot of push and pull. There has been a lot of maybe background sabotages, not to make some laws, which are going to punish those people who might be found culpable of any corruption. And we know the most common areas that corruption is being felt in our country is mostly in the big corporates and big organizations, and even in the management of public funds. And it's a way of maybe securing their maybe pre-planned evils. Yeah. I think that's a very interesting story there, and we'll be looking forward to see what will be happening. There is another story, Kagi, on the visit by Iran's president. Apparently his name is Ebrahim Raisi. So the Swahili people are saying Raisi wa Iran has come to meet with the rise of Kenya. Yes. So and actually they're saying that this is a very, very first visit by an Iranian president in Kenya, and is basically here to see how the two countries, that is Iran and Kenya, can actually continue to enhance and boost bilateral relations, and of course also boost trade between these countries. And of course, this is one of the things that we've been seeing with this particular government, the Kenya Kwanza government, whereby we've been seeing quite a number of visits, even from the president to other countries, trying to see how is it that Kenya can actually enhance some of these relations to actually maybe boost investment opportunities in this particular country. It was not clear why exactly he didn't turn up, and he was expecting also to visit some other countries in Africa. I think it is their first visit to Africa for the last 11 years. And everything was set, even to the last minute. Even press was already at State House waiting to be ushered in when they were told that the meeting is not going on. And one thing I would like to mention is that Kenya, through the president, has heightened its international presence and improving its international diplomacy in the country, maybe to be able to push some agendas from Africa. We know the president has been very instrumental on that matter. And this visit, I think it was one way to be able to improve the relationship between Kenya and Middle East countries. Yeah, you know, the Kenya is also shipping in fuel from those countries.
Yeah.
So I think they are trying to be able to build more cordial relationship, bilateral, all of them. But they were saying, and they said yesterday, that the meeting will be held at a later date.
Of course, we are going to see how that one is going to actually unfold. And of course, most people are also wondering maybe how this is going to turn out, because as we have understood, this particular country, maybe in the previous years or maybe in the previous regimes, is that a particular government maybe would show quite a strong allegiance or maybe need to cooperate, maybe if it is in the East or if it is the East, maybe maybe absolutely focus on the East, maybe if it is in the West. But it's like maybe the Kenya Kwanza government is ready maybe to balance, maybe work with the countries in the East, work with countries maybe in the West. How this is going actually to be successful maybe for the government is something that we are going to wait and see.
Yeah. Another matter, Kenya returns 87 million to the Global Fund. You know, there was an issue with the Global Fund whereby we have given some money to be able to buy some mosquito nets. And after there was some issues, we know what happened. But the Global Fund demanded Kenya to be able to refund money which was being given. I think the first batch was 187 million. And so far, I think they have refunded or returned back 87 million, remaining with 100. And the big question is whether this Global Fund is going to continue working with Kenya on various projects. You know, we have been working with them for many years. And this issue really brought a lot of, I would say, shame to our country, when could be able to not properly cooperate with them to be able to help our people who are being affected by malaria. So the good thing is that they have maybe subjected to the request to refund the money, maybe to start afresh.
Right. Yeah, and I think that is a wake-up call now to government and also maybe to the relevant authorities and the relevant departments and maybe even the organizations to ensure that they raise the bar as far as corruption is concerned, because it is very, very discouraging and disappointing that some of these international bodies would want to pull out of the country. Yes. Because of these vices that have actually been engulfing our country for quite a long time. That is something that needs actually to be looked into.
Yeah, there was one issue, Mangicho, which I think you have been following for some years, regarding the supremacy battle between the Senate and National Assembly.
Right.
You know, we have that problem whereby the two houses have been trying to outweigh the other. Maybe it's a question that began when we are having the 2010 Constitution, that which house is more upper than the other. And we know, because we bought this from Western countries, we know in other countries this matter is not so huge. But in our country, there has been a lot of push and pull between Senate and National Assembly for two reasons. Number one is they have been experienced some conflict in passing laws, right? And there has never been a clear picture and clear understanding on how our laws should be passed. For example, in the last season, there was the Finance Act, which was annulled by the court. And one of the reasons that it was annulled was that the National Assembly, after passing the bill, could not be able to take it to Senate, which is directly involved in following up the matters of the county, because that Finance Act was sometimes directly affecting the counties, right? And therefore, this case was taken to Supreme Court, though it was there in the High Court, but currently it is the Supreme Court, which has given them up to September 17 to be able to sit down and iron out their issues, right? For example, we know there has been an issue which has been raised by Okiya Omtata regarding the Finance Bill 2023. And this bill ought to have been passed by the National Assembly and taken to Senate, because it is affecting our counties but the case is still ongoing. And therefore, the Supreme Court want to help the two houses to iron out their issues. I feel if they don't do that, then Supreme Court, which has the direct role of interpreting our laws, is going to give its own view on this matter.
And I think that is a very good story, Kagi.
Yeah.
It's a very good subject because I can see our guest is already here. Wakili Kipkoech Ngetich is an advocate of the High Court. He will help us so much to be able to see maybe what would be the role of the Supreme Court maybe in this. But of course, when we have this rift between these two houses, one of the things that we also know is that maybe it's also going to affect service delivery. I think it's supposed to be clear what are some of the obligations, what are some of the duties of the Senate, and what again are some of the duties of the National Assembly. I think that is something that we are going to touch when we get into the discussion, and maybe Wakili will tackle something about that, maybe even briefly.
Yeah. All right.
There is another story here, Kagi, maybe just before we take a short break so that we can come back with our guest.
Yeah.
There is a story here that I've also seen that is quite important about the strike by the Matatu. And this is something that they had actually said would take place today. And I've just seen maybe in some counties like in Nyeri, transport has actually been paralyzed. This is something that they had already warned that it would happen, and so maybe today we are expecting that maybe quite a number of passengers are going to be affected, especially in the transport sector.
And I think it was a little bit maybe neutralized by the statement from the CS for Transports and Communications, that's Honorable Murkomen yesterday, because there's one matter that is bringing heat on our drivers. They must go for retraining. Yeah.
This is something they don't want to do. They're saying they're good at practicals.
Yes.
They don't have to be taken back to theoretical classes.
So they feel they don't want to go back there.
Yeah.
And this is one of the issues that maybe stirred up this strike. And they have been, I think it was pushed up to September, 3 months from now, I think so, or 2 months, to be able to iron out their differences on this matter. But seriously, as we said last week, we need to come together as a nation, not only one group, to be able to think and to come with a solution on how we are going to end our maybe road accidents in our country, which are really troubling us every day. We need to come up with a solution regarding to this matter.
And of course, again, there is this particular story that we also saw yesterday. It's like finally we now know who are the owners of Jubilee Party. Remember the fight between the Kanini Kega group, and the Kioni versus the Murathe on the other side. And it's like now, yesterday, the political parties tribunal, it came and it actually declared very well that now the real owners of, or the ones who are supposed actually to be in charge, is the Kanini Kega's group.
Yes, and by yesterday, the Kioni's faction declared that they are going to take this matter to the High Court. And because we have Wakili today, he has a lot of work to do. You know, I was asking myself yesterday, between the political parties tribunal and the High Court, or maybe the Court of Appeal, which has more power than the other when it comes to political parties, is something that we need to know, regarding that matter. So they are going to follow it up in our courts. I think the battle for Jubilee is not yet.
It's not yet over.
No, it's not yet over.
It's not yet over. And I've already seen the faction led by Kanini Kega has already called for a delegates conference. I think it is in August. August, I think I'll confirm the date, but it's like it's going to be in August. There is a date there that they've put. We're going to see. Yeah, but it also points to the way maybe we treat our political parties in the country, how we take our political parties to be, because at the end of the day, you try to wonder, so how beneficial is even this in fighting that you are seeing, for example, in this particular party? How is it benefiting the average Kenyan, okay, what does the average Kenyan has to do with maybe who is the leader of this particular party?
Yeah.
And remember, even as we speak today, looking at maybe how crucial is the Jubilee Party today in terms of maybe commanding numbers, in terms of maybe even maybe coming up with quite a number of recommendations that maybe it might want to bring out there. So it paints a very gloom picture of the place and the relevance of political parties in the country.
Yes, and we had a discussion on this matter, I think, 2 months ago. And one thing that we are lacking is the implementation of the Political Parties Act, you know. By the way we are handling our parties, the way members of parliament are handling their, the way they are running their affairs as members of a political party, which brought them to parliament,
yes,
it can clearly tell you that nobody is serious in the way we are handling our Political Parties Act, you know. And we are saying that we have countries like US, we have a lot to learn from, whereby they have strong parties, which has been there for many years, whereby a political party has established itself even for its own agenda.
Right.
You know, it's known by everybody that before you join a political party, you know the agenda of that party. And when you subscribe to that party, it's for your own will,
right,
you know. And therefore, we need to come up with a solid way to be able to respect our political parties. But the big question is, Mangicho, who is going to do this?
Who is going to do this?
Yeah.
Very, very true, because I think that is one of the problems that we've been having, and as you've rightly put it, we understand that in Kenya, most of these political parties have been taken as vehicles and maybe vessels to take some of these individuals to the offices that they occupy today. And therefore, once they are in those particular offices, they don't really see the need to actually safeguard those particular parties. Because if you can recall in 2013, and maybe even 2017, how Jubilee was actually a household name in this particular country. I think to most Kenyans, they wouldn't have actually been blamed for thinking that this party would have gone maybe, or would have actually been in the reins maybe for the next 20 years. Okay? But look now today, it's actually a shell out of its former self. But I think we need quite some discipline to ensure that this one is actually taken into consideration. Yeah,
and finally, on the same matter, I was asking myself, if, for example, this matter goes to court and Kanini Kega have his day and his faction, what is going to happen to the other team?
Exactly.
And I answered myself that maybe these guys will be trying to come up with a more, and again, a more strong party to be able to push them to the next season of election.
Very good. I can see it's already 11. We want to take a short break at this particular point. Remember, you're watching the Mid-Morning Pack right here on your most favorite channel, MBCI TV. And just to remind you that today we are discussing on the government/opposition rift of the mass protests. The opposition has already called for fresh round of mass protests, demanding that the government looks into the economic situation in the country, plus other issues like the constitution of IEBC. On the set, in a few minutes, we'll be having Wakili Kipkoech Teach. He's an advocate and also a political analyst. He'll help us to make sense of this particular discussion. But we also want you to chip in and give us your views and perspectives on the same. The question we are asking you, what's your opinion on the call for a fresh round of mass protests by the opposition? What is your opinion? Do you support this fresh round of mass protests? And if yes, why do you support? If you are against also, you can tell us why you think or why you've taken that particular position. We'll be glad as we continue with this particular discussion to sample some of those perspectives in this Mid-Morning Pack. We can take that short breather. Don't go far away. We are coming back with much more.
MBCI Television, transforming lives.
The ASK Nakuru branch chairman cordially invites all the residents of Nakuru City, neighboring counties of Kericho, Nyandarua, Baringo, Laikipia, Narok, Bomet, and the country at large to the Nakuru National Agricultural Show starting Wednesday 12th to Sunday 16th July 2023 at the Nakuru Showground. The theme of the show is promoting climate-smart agriculture and trade initiatives for sustainable economic growth. For online booking forms, tickets and inquiries, kindly visit
www.ask.co.ke or call 0722339457. Tukutane Nakuru Show.
Nyeri County, Nyeri Town. This is your time and season. July 27th to July 30th. Every day from 4 p.m. at the Kamukonji grounds. Nyeri County Clergy and the Wesley Paul International Ministry invite you for Arise Nyeri Gospel Fest 2023. Gospel artists G.T. Vernd, Mary Bess Agi, Anastasia Mukabwa, Lucy Nganga, Charles Kengori. At the King City Kengongo grounds from the July 20th till 23rd from 4 p.m. daily, we shall have 10 crusades running from the 20th to the 23rd of July. These cities are King City, Kengongo, Kamakwa, Kagemi, Roringo, Chaka, Ihororo, Gagarivi, Kiawara, Zogoma, and Gatito towns. Then the mega crusade is at Kamukonji grounds from the 27th to the 30th of July, beginning from 4 p.m. This will be great as we experience the power of God.
Niliawanyonirie kuhoya nidakenire ndamenya kurehe bata wako wakuriwe iguru ni kuri Ngai uiguaga mundu. Na kusalimu mtazamaji, Bwana asifiwe. Mimi ni Njero Thiga na niko na habari njema. Ukidownload wimbo huu kama sikiza tune yako kupitia star 487 star 71 hash star 487 star 71 hash, na ukisha download kwa simu yako unapata free MB data bundles na Mungu atakubariki. God bless.
MBCI Television, transforming lives.
Welcome back to the mid-morning pack. We're glad that you're still joining us on this particular conversation. And today, of course, as we had promised you, we are discussing the rift or the government stroke opposition rift over mass protest. This mass protest or this fresh round of mass protest were called for by the opposition. And they started on Friday, or the first round of the protest was on Friday. And according to government, we lost 6 people. Now, again, this morning or today on Wednesday, the opposition has already said again they will be back on the streets to agitate for what they are calling good or actually favorable economic favorable economy. And now this is what we want to discuss today and see or try to find out what this particular mass protest actually mean. How are they going to affect us as a country? Does the opposition have any basis for calling this particular protest? And on studio, as we had promised, we have an advocate of the High Court of Kenya and also a political analyst, that is Wakili Kipng'oech Ngetich. He'll help us to look at this particular matter in details. And of course, we also have a question for you. Do you support the opposition calls for mass protest You can give us your suggestion, you can give us your perspectives, whether you support or whether you don't support. And if you support, you can tell us why do you support. If you're against, also tell us, or be free to tell us or to share with us why maybe you've taken that particular position. And even as we continue, we'll be glad to see what is it that you're saying, or what are some of the opinions that you have in regards to this particular matter as we continue. And Wakili, it's a pleasure to have you today in this particular set. Karibu sana to the Mid-Morning Park.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mangicho Mola. Yes. I am indeed excited to be in this session. This I've longed to be in a very long while. Thank you once again for the Mid-Morning Park. And I think MBZI is the way to go.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, and it's a pleasure. We've also been looking forward to have you, and we appreciate a lot that today you found time to be with us. And as my cameraman just tries to look into, my cameraman, you can actually look at the microphone of Wakili so that we can catch up on this particular conversation. But of course, Kagi, there are things that, of course, we'll have to look into even as we talk about the issue of this particular mass protest. But one of the things that has actually now been very, very evident is that we've been losing lives. And 6 people to actually die in a mass protest is something that is very disappointing. Yeah, and
it's something that has been going on for some time, and it's a matter that the President yesterday really gave his position, that they're not going to allow anybody else to be able to lose life because of demonstration. And also, even as the other side says that it is not we who are maybe inciting the public, it is police who are inciting the public. And therefore, who is to blame? Is it the government to blame or the opposition to blame? And where are the police falling? You see? Yeah, because everybody is saying that no, you are the one who are coming to incite us. No, let us do demonstrations peacefully without interference by police. Now the government is saying no, we cannot allow people to just hover in the towns and streets, interfering with public who are doing their business, and also maybe instilling some fear to people, right?
Yeah, we look into that, and maybe if we can begin with the Wakili, because there is this question of 15 million signatures that we've seen the opposition running with, and of course Kenyans now wondering whether this is there is any basis for these 15 million signatures that Kenyans are being asked to append. Do they have any basis legally to remove the president from power?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mangicho Mola. Right. It's important to mention that the office of the president is an office which is protected by the Constitution, specifically when you look at Article number 143, Article number 144, Article number 145, and similar articles. If you want to remove the president can only be removed through impeachment on a number of grounds. One of them is violation of the Constitution, gross violation of the law, violation of international law. And the way to remove the president is to move the National Assembly, to move the Senate. There's going to be an inquiry, and then there's going to be a vote in Parliament and in Senate. When you go out to collect signatures, whether they are 5 million, 10 million, 15 million, 20 million, or whatever number of signatures that we are talking about, you need to be very sure that you fall within the provisions of the Constitution. And I have no doubt in my mind that the only way you can remove a sitting president is through the National Assembly, is through the Senate. My verdict, therefore, on the collection of 15 million signatures is that I suspect, because it has no impact on the office of the president. It has no impact on the continuity or removal of Dr. William Samoei Ruto as a sitting president of this country. And as I have said, I suspect this is a tangent by the Azimio Brigade to tell people that we have people on our side, to tell those people who are supporting them, those who are not supporting them, that you need to come to this other side. Yes. Otherwise, as I have said, signatures collected in such a process cannot remove the president. Even if you were to send these signatures for verification by the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, you cannot remove the president. But I suspect that when these signatures are collected, perhaps the Azimio Brigade are going to tell us that now we want to go into a referendum. These are the issues that we want, and these are the signatures that we have collected. IEBC please vet these signatures. Please confirm that these signatures are in accordance with the Constitution on a popular mandate.
So, okay, if I hear you clearly, is that yes, they are going with this particular move. They know very well that it has not any basis for what maybe they have made maybe Kenyans to think. But it is not that it is an exercise in futility. They have a different agenda that they want to meet or to actually fulfill through the use of these signatures.
Yes, my suspicion is that at some point they are going to call for amendment to the Constitution through the popular mandate, and that is why these signatures are being collected. I don't think Raila Amolo Odinga, Senior Counsel Kalonzo Stephen Musyoka, Senior Counsel Martha Karua do not know this. They must know that you cannot collect signatures, however many they are, and use them to remove a sitting president. That would be punching above your weight, because it can't happen. But since these are people who are very learned, these signatures, we would be told later on, in my estimation, that now we are going to amend the Constitution and reintroduce maybe BBI or any other initiative that is going to go towards an amendment of the Constitution.
And Wakili, these signatures are also coming now with this fresh round of protest as called for by the opposition. We know the first round of this particular protest and the kind of havoc they actually caused in this particular country. We are now seeing again the opposition coming again very strongly advocating for another round of protest. The government is also remaining adamant that it's not going to allow protest that will lead to loss of lives and also to destruction of property. Now, when we see now this rift between these two strong sides, what do you think this portends for the country at a time like this?
If I have to speak to the current demonstrations that we have as a country, I must say that in a short while, we are not going to have a country. If we are going to carry on with the mass protests, with the violence associated with the same, with the lighting of bonfires on our highways, with the closing of major towns in the country, with looting of businesses, with violence and even shooting of some of the people in the demonstrations or around the demonstrations, I can assure you again that in a short while there shall be no country. We are going to have an economy that is in doldrums. We are going to have an economy that has been brought down to its knees. We are going to lose lives, and several businesses are going to shut down, not just in Nairobi, but across the country where we have these mass protests. The right to demonstrate, the right to picket, the right to assemble for purposes of Article 37 of the Constitution of Kenya is a protected right. It's a very important right, and I think you need to give it to the Azimio Brigade. They have every right to demonstrate, to picket and assemble peaceably while they are not armed. The government of Kenya is under constitutional responsibility to ensure that demonstrations or demonstrators, for that matter, are protected while going about it. Where is the gap? What is the missing link? The missing link is this, Mr. Mangicho and viewers of MBCI this morning. We have an Azimio Brigade that wants to run its demonstrations in a way it's knows best. Looks like the way they demonstrate, the way they picket and assemble is not done in tandem with the police. And the police also are not reaching out as would be expected to the Azimio Brigade so that they ensure that the demonstrations are peaceful, demonstrators are protected, and business people and Kenyans who are not interested in demonstrations, Kenyans who want to continue doing their businesses, Kenyans who want to continue offering services, Kenyans who want to continue traveling as they go about their daily routines are not disturbed. That is the missing link that we have as a country. And as already told, we've lost 6 people this week out of these demonstrations. We don't know how many people are going to lose today. So as I've said, much as there's a right to assemble, there's a right to picket, there is a right to demonstrate, the way we've gone about it as a country is extremely wrong. Azimio takes responsibility 60% for not ensuring that their demonstrations are organized and are protected by the police. The police and the government of the day would take 40% responsibility for shooting people who are innocent, for shooting people who are not in demonstration areas, for shooting people who have not done anything that would have to require that they be shot. So, as I have said, there is need for Azimio Brigade to take responsibility for the deaths that we've seen and ensure that there are demonstrations that are respected and which I support are peaceful and do not interfere with the lives and businesses of other people, while also ensuring at the same time that their message is very clear, because as it is today, I am not very sure that the message by Azimio Brigade is clear. We do not know really what they want, because today they are talking about IBC, tomorrow they are talking about reduction of food, the other time they want to talk about fuel. I think also they need to be very consistent about their message. But whatever it is, let us make sure that demonstrations are peaceful and nobody is armed, and those Kenyans who do not want to participate in demonstrations also are given their space to do their business and to ply their trade as much as they want.
Well put, Wakili. Before maybe I also bring Kagi to put a question or two, you can first of all join our reporter Vincent Kimtai, who always during this particular show goes to the streets and also finds the opinions of Kenyans regarding the subject of conversation. And our reporter Vincent Kimtai, you can take it right away.
Continuing with the countrywide demonstration against the government to continue to intensify the demos from what was witnessed last week on Sabasaba Day. The Azimio la Umoja leader Raila Odinga has called on for Kenyan to brace for today's demonstration as the coalition embarks on signature collection to delegitimize the government of Kenya Kwanza. And here I'll be speaking to Kenyans to find out their opinions concerning the Azimio maandamanos.
Hiyo naipinga kabisa. Hiyo maandamano sioni sasa inasaidia. Ile kitu naona wapatie muda hii serikali iko ifanye kazi. Na unajua sasa ni ile serikali tunaiamini, inajua itafanya kazi. Waipatie tu nafasi tu. Mambo ya maandamano hakuna kitu inasaidia, ya kutesa, inafanya biashara zirudi nyuma, unaona sasa. Na ireti hataki changu hata kidogo. Pahali wawili wanapomenyana, nyasi ndio inaumia. Ama naona gani? Unajua sasa sisi ndio wadogo, sisi ndio tunaumia. Tunaumia. Kuna haja uze sauti inarudisha mambo nyuma kabisa. Tunarudi nyuma, biashara kama ni unajua zile kuna hiyo maandamano inakuwa na tension naye, unaona sasa kama ni customer akuje, maana wanahofia. Wanahofia wakikuja labda za zile kuna furugu hizo zianze kugoja, tia gazi zitupwe nini, una customer asikuja. Sasa hata sisi tunaumia
sana sisi kama wananchi. Na mimi singependelea kuona mwenzangu anashiba na mimi nalala njaa. Mimi ni asla, mimi ni mtu wa chini. Mimi hadi ya kulipa studio saizi siwezi jifanyia muziki mimi mwenyewe sababu maisha imepanda. Mimi nilikuwa nikiishi nyumba at least naweza lipa 6,000. Saizi nilihama naishi nyumba 2,500. So maandamano yenye kinara wetu Azimio wanaweka, huwa kuna wenye wanaumia na kuna wenye wanakuwa tu sawa. But wale wenye wanaleta chaos hao ndio huwa wanaumia sana. But mimi baba mimi namsupport na nataka yake maandamano kabisa, ndio high cost of living at least Rais Ruto hawezi kutushukishia chini.
Mimi ningesema badala ya maandamano kila mtu aendelee na kazi yake mahali anafanya, ndio tupate mtu apate kia kitu ya kukula, ndio tuendelee mbele. Sasa ninaona kama tunarudisha kazi nyuma. Ndio.
Mimi upande wangu hayo maandamano mimi naiunga mkono. Naunga mkono kwa maana sasa unajua sasa ile tulikuwa matarajio tulikuwa nayo kwa hii serikali ya Kenya Kwanza, hiyo matarajio ni kama imekuwa nini. So naomba tu Wakenya wajitokeze waandamane ili tulalamikie hii uchumi imeharibika.
Maandamano inastahili sababu tumehangaika. Uchumi imekuwa mbaya. Tuseme vitu kama sukari ukienda kwa duka unapata ni over 200 kuendelea. Mimi naomba maendeleo ifanywe.
Naunga maandamano 100%. Tunataka Raila aitishe maandamano. Kama haitafanyika hapa Nakuru, mimi mwenyewe nitatoka hapa niende Kisumu nifanye maandamano Kisumu ama Nairobi. Juu tumechoka na Ruto. Kila saa anasema nitafanya. Alidanganya watu wakifanya kampeni ya kwamba bei ya maisha itafanya nini? Itashuka. Kwanza nauliza huyo mtu yake anaitwa Wetangula huyo. Alikuwa akisema ya kwamba kupigia Ruto kura ni kupunguza bei ya unga. Kupigia Ruto kura ni kupunguza bei ya mafuta. Kupigia Ruto kura ni kupunguza bei ya gharama ya maisha. Sasa hii ndio vitu tulikuwa tunangojea afanye.
Mimi ningesema tu warekebishe hali ya uchumi at least kidogo, hata sisi tuweze kufanya kazi, kwa maana kufinywa, si matajiri wamefinywa, sisi maskini ndio tumefinywa kabisa. Maana hata kuuza chenye uko nayo huwezi uza, wakununua hakuna, wenye wakununua hawana pesa. Na yunga kwa sababu hawajakubali kuteramusha vitu yenye natakiwa kuteramushwa.
Naunga maandamano kwa sababu ukweli president wetu Ruto alisema kila kitu cost of life itarudi chini. Saizi cost of life imeenda below the highest mountain in the world. So ule mtu wa chini mama mboga ule alikuwa anasema atamsaidia. President wetu tuoni mali anamsaidia. If kama mafuta itaenda juu, mafuta ndio inasafirisha kila kitu. Itasafirisha mahindi, itasafirisha mboga, itasafirisha viazi. So hizo zote ndio mwananchi wa chini anahitaji ndio aweze kuendeleza maisha yake. Kwangu zaidi ningependa pia kuuliza president wetu, ni vizuri kuwa open. Wakenya wana demand kujua Kenya. Okay, hata Raila alijatuambia maneno kama hiyo. Na yes, tunaunga maandamano, lakini hajakuwa pia naye open. Openness ni hivi. Hii Kenya ni nchi yetu, tunaipenda. Inadaiwa pesa ngapi? Na kiasi hiyo pesa yenye inadaiwa, Ruto kama president wetu anataka kuokota hii pesa ama anatutax for how long? Umeangalia ndio tuweze kulipa hii deni, kwa sababu saizi wa Kenya wako kwa giza. Hakuna mtu mwenye anajua tunadaiwa pesa ngapi, tunailipa aje na tutailipa kwa muda gani. Na baada hii muda tutaweza kuwa maisha yetu imerudi chini venye inastahili, kwa sababu saizi ni kweli maisha hizi rudi chini sana kwa sababu ya ile deni. Na lazima president aokote pesa kulipa ile deni. Umeangalia openness ya ile deni ni ngapi? Na hiyo deni tutailipa kwa muda gani? Umeangalia? Na kwa baada hii muda tutakuwa tukifanya maendeleo gani? Hiyo yote wabunge hawaongelei. Umeangalia? Senate waongelei, MCAs waongelei. Umeangalia? Kwa hivyo huku chini wao wanakula vizuri. Lakini hapa juu kwenye sisi tunakaa kwa jua, hatujui ni nini inaendelea chini. Wakuwe open. Wabunge, Mr. President Gachagua kama deputy, watuambie tu deni ni kiasi gani? Italipwa kwa muda gani? Na baada hiyo muda tutakuwa na maendeleo aina gani? Kwa sababu saizi sisi wa Kenya, hata Raila tuambie, tuko kwa giza. It's like we are not trusting anybody. What we know and what is happening in Kenya, everything it is under president. Hata the independence ya mahakama, it is not implemented. Mahakama ina nguvu. Tunasema tu, tunasikia tu iko na nguvu. Tunasikia lakini tunaiangalia. Mahakama haina nguvu. Kama ingekuwa na nguvu, ingekuwa inajisimamia ikiwa yeye ama hiyo institution ya judiciary ingekuwa inajisimamia, ingekuwa na power ya kuimplement vitu zingine ama kukataza ama kukubali. Umeangalia? But if kama hao hawawezi kuizuia wakapatia president wetu ruhusa ya kuendelea na mambo ambayo kwamba anaendelea, that means wamejoin hands.
Mimi naunga mkono hii maendeleo maandamano iendelee. Juu maisha imekuwa ngumu sana. Juu kwa kusema ukweli ile yake yenye alikuwa anaongea hata hakuna kitu hata moja ametimiza. Tunaumia, wananchi wa chini tunaumia kabisa.
Mangicho and Paul Kage, those are the opinions of the Kenyans concerning today Azimio demos. Azimio la Umoja leader Raila Odinga said that today's maandamanos will be peacefully all over the country against high cost of living and the punitive tax. Also, Odinga said that maandamanos will continue until when the government will implement their demands. Reporting for MBCI TV, Mid Morning Park, my name is Vincent Kimutai.
Well, thank you so much. Our reporter there, Vincent Kimtai, on the streets, getting the opinions of Kenyans on what they also think about the subject of our discussion today, looking at the call for fresh round of mass protest by the opposition to push the government to look into the harsh economic times that we are going through as a country. And Akili, varied opinions there by Kenyans. And maybe one of the questions that maybe most people are asking, Wakili, is it that maybe when we want things to be good, the last resort should be protest?
Thank you. Again, I must say, Article 37 of the Constitution of Kenya protects the right to demonstrate, the right to assemble, the right to picket peaceably and without weapons. You should not be armed. Actually, you should be protected by the police when you go about your demonstrations.
And this is something that we've not maybe witnessed in the country, because one of the things is that, is it really impossible for us as a country maybe to witness these peaceful protests, as you put it, Wakili?
Paul and Mangicha, I must say that we've seen very peaceful protests in this country. This year, I have participated in a peaceful protest led by the Law Society of Kenya to Ardhi House, where we met the Principal Secretary, Ministry of Lands, because of so many things that are not functioning at the Ministry of Lands. The problem that we have is that the mindset of the ordinary politician in this country across the divide, in Azimio, in Kenya Kwanza Alliance, is to see that people have suffered because of one or two things. The problem that we have is that the politicians that we have are not fighting for the common man's cause, because when you see 6 people have died, as a politician leading the protests, as a politician in government, you would want to sit down with your adversary and ask your adversary, what is this that is happening? Why are people losing their lives? Is there something we can do to avert more loss of lives, more loss of properties, and devastating effects to the economy? Because when you shut down Nairobi, like Nairobi was shut down last Wednesday, and people are not going about their businesses, how many livelihoods are suffering? The President of the Republic of Kenya, the Cabinet, Raila Amolo Odinga, Baba, Moses Wetangula, all these other people across the political divide are well taken care of by the taxpayers. They have very fat salaries. They are protected around the clock by policemen paid by taxpayers. But the common person who is selling in Kigomba market, the person who is in Isli market, the person who is selling in Nakuru, all these people who are relying on the goodwill of people not known to them to come and purchase items from their stalls are people who are going to suffer when these markets are closed. And that is why I'm saying, I think as a country, we also need to tell the politicians that we have lives to live. We cannot be agitating for power. We cannot be agitating to ascend to office from one election to another election cycle. I think those people who've lost elections should be able to allow the government in place at least 1 year to function. Those also who've ascended to government should make sure that the promises they made have delivered. Because Raila Amolo Odinga is a shrewd politician. He's taken advantage of false promises made by the president. The president has been dangling false promises, lying to Kenyans that the price of gas is going to come down in a short while, the cost of living is coming down. But what do you see when you go there? The price of unga continues to go up. When you go to the gas station, petroleum prices are rising by the day. Power prices are not coming down. So Raila Amolo Odinga has taken advantage of a president who has fallen onto his trap, a president who is lying to the people on a daily basis. Matters are not helped by the fact that Raila Amolo Odinga, having found a president who lies and fails to deliver on his promises, should just have maintained the tempo and momentum and given the president 1 year to ensure that the president has failed. Of course, I wish that he succeeds, but the way he is proceeding, it comes out clearly that this is a president who is most likely going to fail. One other thing that is very serious and which the president has not addressed more than anything is the runaway corruption in this country. The former president told us that this country loses 2 billion daily. If thieves are stealing over the weekend, even on Sundays and holidays, it means on a good year, we lose 730 billion. That is almost 30% of our annual budget. What has the president, what has the government of President Ruto done to stem corruption? There's nothing. There's absolutely zero. You also look at the cabinet. The composition of cabinet is not that of a cabinet that is supposed to ignite a spark that is going to bring the transformation that we want as a country. So what are we going to have? We are going to have the problems we inherited from Uhuru's government, in this government, through this government. And Raila Amolo Odinga would sit pretty. I would have invited Raila Amolo Odinga to stop demonstrations, to stop mass actions, because they are not necessary now. For him, he is very popular at the moment because he is speaking to the needs of, the people. And the needs of the people are considerable, modest prices for food, for fuel, for electricity, and all these other things. He only needs to run away with the narrative, to continue visiting media stations, to continue visiting people across the country and reminding them of their problems, because he's not supposed to deliver. Going to the streets, stopping Kenyans from going about their businesses, ensuring businesses are closed in most parts of the country, that is an overkill for Raila Amolo Odinga. He should give the current government at least 1 year to have a 1-year budget cycle and fail or succeed. And then from there now, he can be able to galvanize Kenyans across the country. And these problems are not regional. These problems are not ethnic. These problems are not politically affiliated. The problems that we have today are problems that affect all Kenyans. And if he allows William Ruto sometimes, then I am sure in the next financial year, Raila Amolo Odinga is going to have the support of all Kenyans, I think, with the exception of a few individuals who are probably cabinet secretaries and principal secretaries in this government.
Yes, Wakili, thank you. There's something that you have mentioned regarding to Raila Odinga is riding on the wave of our problems. But I think every president or politician is using the same maybe philosophy to be able to climb into political radar. Now, I can recall even the president himself, when he was campaigning, he used the same format, yeah, and the script is the same, that the hustler narrative, whereby you talk to the people and their problems to be able, because they're the ones who can be able to bring you to power. The same thing is the one that Raila is using, whereby we have many problems and he is trying to swim on that wave. Now the question is, are there hopes that our political class are going to come up with a concrete solution to be able to bring us, especially the common mwananchi, from where we are today to a better place? Do you feel anybody is ready for that? Because once we empower them, they're not going to hear you.
That is a very interesting question, Paul. As a Kenyan and as a patriot, I must say I pray every day for President William Samoei Ruto to succeed. I pray for the government of the day to succeed and meet the expectations of the people. Sadly, what I see on a daily basis is not what I expect to see as I pray. Because number one, I see a very hard-working president. I see a deputy president who is always up at the crack of dawn. But over and above the busy schedules of the president and the deputy president, I do not see concrete solutions. For example, last week there was a tea conference in Kericho. This was supposed to be a conference to come up with concrete solutions on how to enhance the prices of tea in the country, cut the cost of production, and have a timeline of when this is going to be done. What happened out of that? I saw a long list of politicians who came to the conference to address their constituents. After the 3 days of the conference, there was not a single solution given to be implemented within a certain timeline. You look at the cabinet that we have today, and Kenyans know the respective names of the cabinet. There are even those who've been sworn in again. Though they are not cabinet members, they will be attending cabinet meetings. You do not see a single of them who has the necessary spark that is going to reinvigorate the dwindling fortunes of this country. And matters are not helped, Kagi, by the fact that we do not have a parliament. What we have today is an appendix. What we have today is an appendage of the executive. The parliament that we have today is more executive. That is why on a daily basis I listen to the Speaker of the National Assembly and the Deputy Speaker, Wetangula and Sholei, and they are more executive than parliamentarians. They are speaking about the Finance Act, what the court has done wrong. You know, I am worried, and I do not want to paint a grim picture of the future, but sadly I do not see any calculated efforts to transform the dwindling fortunes that we have today into prosperity in the next 1 year or 2 years. I must say this at the risk of repetition, that our biggest problem as a country is wastage. And Dr. David Ndii, the chairperson of the President's Economic Council, has told us, not once but many times, he has even been tweeting, that they found a government so corrupt and so wasteful in nature, and chances are they will leave it as corrupt and as wasteful as it is. This is a special advisor to the president on matters of the economy, but he's saying that as it is today, the government, where he advises the president, is helpless. It cannot stop corruption. It cannot stop wastage. What is the future? The future is what we have today. If there are no serious efforts, if we do not have a president who is saying now corruption shall not be a way of life, and we stop laws, we stop hemorrhaging of 730 billion annually, then we are going to see what we've been seeing. We see that monies to schools are released very late in the day. Monies to county governments are released very late in the day. The government literally is grinding to a halt. There is no bright future.
Yes, and Wakili, even as we talk about the very gloom picture, and it's like to exacerbate this particular issue, of course, we've seen the High Court recently also stopping the implementation of the Finance Act, which has now become law. And already the Chief Justice, like we've already been told, is being expected to constitute a 3-judge bench to also look into that particular matter. But now, where does this put us? If, for example, we see a situation whereby that particular bench that is going to be formed also emphasizing on the same position that that particular act, that particular Finance Act 2023, maybe is unconstitutional or is not fit, where does it put the operations of the government of President William Ruto?
Thank you, Mr. Mangicho and Mr. Kagi. It's important for me to tell Kenyans that when public participation was done on the finance bill that time of 2023, many Kenyans came out and told the president that this housing levy is unconstitutional for purposes of Article 204 of the Constitution, because you are bringing it under the Finance Act so that it looks like it is a tax. You're bringing it under the Finance Bill of 2023 so that the impression is you want to collect tax through the housing levy. The president said, no, this is a saving. After push and pull, the percentage was reduced from 3% down to 1.5%, and they now said this one is not refundable and it is not a saving. What are we saying? What we are saying is that we have a government now that has gone amok, a government that is not listening to its people, and worst of all, a government that is not following the law. You cannot force people to contribute unto something called affordable housing, which does not make sense. We still ask today, if you deduct 1.5% of 100,000, you can be sure that in 15 years, you cannot collect 1 million shillings. Which house are you going to build with 1 million shillings? Where? And whose plot are you going to build on? In other words, this thing is something that does not add up, and the president should have told Kenyans that he is suffering because there are no cash flows. There is no money in circulation. He should have invited Kenyans of goodwill to find a way of investing in government, putting their money in treasury bills and bonds so that the president can get money to run in circulation. What did he do? He forced through the parliament, which I have said is more of executive than parliament, to pass the Finance Act now of 2023. And the court has seen through the mischief. You cannot punish Kenyans through the housing tax, which is unconstitutional, and that is why the Finance Act had to be stayed by the High Court, and we do not know what is going to happen. Perhaps it's going to be quashed, especially on the provisions of the housing tax, because you are forcing Kenyans who are already overtaxed to contribute money and to a clandestine scheme. I want to repeat again that the scheme called the affordable housing through the housing levy is a clandestine scheme. It is an opaque project which does not accord to logic. In other words, it defies logic. Where does the injunction, where does the conservatory order leave us? It leaves us in the Finance Act of 2022, because the law says that if an act is passed in Parliament and it is subsequently stayed or quashed, then automatically we revert to the previous act. So the government should be able to collect taxes from the Finance Act of 2022, and there is an Appropriation Act which was passed in 2023. The appropriation would be in accordance with the Finance Act of 2022. So the government should be able to operate. Sadly, of course, it will not be able to collect much of the taxes it anticipated to collect through the Finance Act of 2023, because it has found itself in the problem many Kenyans foresaw, that the housing tax, for example, was an illegality that should have been cured.
And this also, before Kagi comes in, Wakili, this also gives maybe Kenyan a lot of hope, that because initially there was the perception that once, or there are those who believed that once Parliament passes it, it becomes law. People thought that Parliament has the final say. But where is the place of judiciary when it comes even to helping Kenyans in such a sensitive matter like this?
Thank you, Mr. Kagi and Mr. Mangicho and viewers of MBCI. It's important to mention that we have three organs of government. The executive, which has a budgetary allocation of over 2 trillion. We have Parliament, which has about 50 billion shillings. And then judiciary, which is allocated ordinarily 18 billion. It is now supposed to be given about 23 billion. When you look at the budgetary allocation of the judiciary continuously, even today, it has been given about 23. Compared to the 3.6 trillion, it is about 0.5%. This is a drop in the ocean. This is a pittance that is given to the judiciary. Advanced jurisdictions give the judiciary about 2.5%. So if we were to give 2.5% of what we have today, then we would be talking about 100 billion. That notwithstanding, that we underfund the judiciary in this country, I think of the three organs, the judiciary has done extremely well. I've had an occasion to conduct a research on leadership and integrity for my LLD, and Kenyans spoke. About 7 out of 10 of Kenyans think that the judiciary is an institution that is doing well. They think Parliament has played absolutely no role, with the executive caring about 2 out of 10. What am I saying about this? What I am saying is that the judiciary as currently constituted, much as it is bedeviled by underfunding and a number of other problems like some corruption, the judiciary is a fairly independent institution in this country. For Kenyans who probably are listening to this program, the judiciary was able to uphold the election of the deputy president, then now the president of the Republic of Kenya, who was an underdog and who was considered an opposition. Who would have expected the Supreme Court to rule in favor of Dr. William Samoei Ruto? Nobody. Number two, on the BBI matter, the Supreme Court, Court of Appeal and the High Court ruled against the sitting president who was pushing BBI. And now we've seen the Finance Act, where the judiciary has granted a conservatory order against the Finance Act of 2023, against threats, against intimidation, and even overreaching from the executive and parliament. So I must say that of the three institutions, Kenyans can bank on the judiciary for access to justice and for good leadership and integrity.
Yeah, Wakili, regarding the same, the finance bill, there is this matter that is between the finance bill itself and the EPRA, the issue of the fuel levy. Don't you feel that even though there has been the conservatory orders, the EPRA is acting on a contempt of court?
Thank you, Kagi. I know for sure that this is a matter that is live in court, but it's important to mention that once the Finance Act 2023 has been stayed by the High Court, as it has been, the Director General, Daniel Kiptoo, of EPRA has no option. He must, and he doesn't have a choice on this, he must comply with the order of the court and revert to the Finance Act of 2022 on matters of fuel levy, on matters of petroleum, as far as taxation is concerned. If it doesn't do so, lawyers would say such action is contumelious. The Constitution and the courts and options available are imprisonment and hefty fines. I will not say more because I would state the principle. I will not want to get into the facts and the intricacies of the case which is before the court.
And Wakili, just like you had mentioned, of course, there are those who have actually been wondering and really looking forward to see how the president is actually going to react to some of these rulings. There is also the ruling about the position of the CASs, which the court also declared unconstitutional. Now, like you've mentioned, we saw the Supreme Court upholding the election victory of President William Ruto. And also there was the ruling that was made concerning the BBI. And to some Kenyans, this particular ruling looked like it was in favor of President William Ruto. Now, this time round, these rulings have been made, and it's like they are against maybe his preference or maybe his position. And of course, we've seen quite also a number of Kenya Kwanza leaders like the Senator for Nandi, that is Samson Cherargei, actually reprimanding the judiciary for this position or for this particular ruling. How do you think the president now will work out this, or how is he supposed to conduct himself regarding to these particular rulings that seems very unfit for what he believes should be the way he needs to continue ruling this particular country?
Thank you, Mangicho, Kagi, and viewers of MBCI. When I look at the decisions, starting from the BBI judgment, looking at the election petition 2022, looking at the Chief Administrative Secretary's decision, which was handed down a few days ago, together with the conservatory orders in the Finance Act, against the Finance Act of 2023, I see a judiciary that is consistent, a judiciary that is not intimidated by the direction and the weight of the presidency. That is number one. Number two, I see a judiciary that is keen to maintain fidelity to the law and the Constitution and to the oath of office. What does it mean to President William Ruto? President William Ruto has been a beneficiary of a strong judiciary. He didn't support BBI. The court ruled in favor or over his position. Not necessarily that he came out very clearly to support or to oppose BBI, but his views were known to be against BBI. The court's decision in the Supreme Court also was in favor of President William Samoei Ruto and is a president, courtesy of the decision of the people and the Supreme Court. But the CAS case and the Finance Act 2023 case has gone against him. What it means, therefore, is that we have a robust judiciary that is faithful to the law. When you have a judiciary ruling against you as a president, it means that you're losing it on the rule of law. It means that the judiciary, by flip side, or on the flip side, has passed a vote of no confidence against you. So if I was President William Samoei Ruto, I would be very worried by the decision of the High Court on Chief Administrative Secretary's case. I would be very much concerned by the ruling of the High Court on the Finance Act 2023, and I would want to very quickly retrace my steps and ensure that I am on the side of the law.
Maybe regarding to the contempts of courts by the state, we have been experiencing a series of contempts by the state itself, not only on this regime. I don't think we have a tangible case, but looking at the previous regime, there has been several situations whereby the court has ruled this and then the state does against. Who is supposed to be held responsible by the court when the state maybe ignores the court ruling?
Thank you, Kagi, and viewers of MBCI. It's important to mention that Article 156 of the Constitution of Kenya creates a very powerful office of the Attorney General, who sits in the cabinet, and the Attorney General also sits in the National Security Council. That is to say, the office of the Attorney General is a very powerful office, and that is the chief legal advisor of government. When government disrespects orders, the first person who should take responsibility is the Attorney General. Number two, when government disrespects court orders, the specific accounting officers for ministries and parastatals and public bodies should also take responsibility. The president certainly comes third. Whether the president is sued or not, it is the responsibility of the president under Article 10 of the Constitution of Kenya, as the leader of leaders, as the commander-in-chief, as the head of state and government, to ensure that his government is under the rule of law and constitutionalism, under Article 10 of the Constitution and under Article 165. sadly, of course, I must say, when I listen to Senator Cherargei Samson, Senator from Nandi, a trained lawyer, a young man, speak in the manner he speaks through Twitter and other fora, I cry for my country, because this is one person who is blowing hot and cold. The other time, the current government benefited a lot from good rulings and judgments from the courts. The courts were not made in their favor, but they were made to accord to the rule of law and constitutionalism. And by happenstance, by luck, by fluke, they benefited from them in their political vehicles. Now that they are in government, and this is the position across the country, Mangicho, whenever you are in government, court orders are very irritating because they are in accordance with the rule of law. And I would remind the president, and I know the president listens, he does not have an option. There is only one way, the narrow path. The narrow path is that of respecting the law, respecting the constitution, and court orders. If he did that, he's going to thrive. Add to that, respect for the constitution, respect for institutions, and the reduction of corruption and bribery and conflict of interest in the country.
And Wakili, what does it also say now? But because you've also mentioned the Attorney General, and you're expecting that there are those who are actually given, or those who are actually given the opportunity or even the duties to actually help the president, advise the president on some of these issues, because to some Kenyans, they wouldn't have expected us maybe to be where we are in terms of even maybe coming up with this finance bill, which apparently seemed, or it was obvious that it had a lot of faults, even the issue maybe of the CSs. Now, when it comes to the competency of those who are supposed to offer solid legal advice to the president, so that maybe we avoid situations like the one that we are actually facing today, how is this particular matter supposed to be looked into?
Thank you. Again, I must say that the ruling by the High Court staying the Finance Act on the basis that there is a prima facie case that the Finance Act of 2023 is unconstitutional, is an indictment against the person of the president. And the president needs to retrace his steps. When he retraces his steps, he will go back to his advisors, especially the legal experts in the cabinet, especially the legal experts in State House, and of course the Attorney General. And if I were the president, this is an opportunity to relieve the Attorney General and those around the Attorney General who supported and pushed for the Finance Act in the present form. The president now is not a demigod. The president is not a deity. The president is not a spirit. He should be told the truth and told the president, even if you want money to power circulation of money in government, this is not the way to go. There is only one way, and this is the way. Option, the president should fire the Attorney General and the Solicitor General and get people who will tell him the truth to his face and ensure that the rule of law and constitutionalism in this country are maintained.
And Wakili, now coming back now to where we are, and because it's like the kind of relationship that we are seeing between now the president and the opposition, and especially the opposition leader, that is Raila Odinga, is still becoming frosty. Now, there are those who are going back to 2017, and they are thinking that maybe the decision that was made by the then president, former President Uhuru Kenyatta, was beneficial to the country, that he saw that if you not have invited, or if maybe they would not have had some camaraderie of between them, the country would have still been going through these particular hard times, and maybe the opposition would not be in a position to give the government a conducive environment to continue with the development programs. And actually, even the president mentioned this yesterday, that the opposition is doing this because they do not want the youth to get job opportunities, to get some of these developments that they're actually supposed to be given. Now, does it mean that if we saw some form of handshake or some form of maybe some agreement between former Prime Minister Raila Odinga and President William Ruto, does it mean that we are going now maybe to see things working smooth?
Thank you, viewers. It's important for me to mention that the differences between President William Samoei Ruto and Raila Amolo Odinga are non-issues. The differences that arise as we see them today are metaphysical. These are things that you cannot quantify. They are, in other words, personal interests. I say this because in 2017-2022, Raila Amolo Odinga was comfortable with the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission as it is constituted today.
Yes.
Matters of subsidies on fuel, the former Prime Minister was comfortable with the same. William Ruto was not comfortable. Now that they have changed the position, William Ruto is now in the inner sanctum of power, and Raila Amolo Odinga is no longer a handshake partner. He thinks that a number of things ought to be done. The IBC should be reconstituted, and the IBC Act, which was amended when he was closer to the inner sanctum of power, needs to be reviewed. I want to say again, Mr. Mangicho, that the differences between President William Samoei Ruto and Raila Amolo Odinga are not about Kenyans, and they are not tangible issues. So that if the issues are personal, if the issues are about personal aggrandizement and personal glory, I do not see any reason why Kenyans continue to suffer because of two individuals. And my advice is that President Dr. William Samoei Ruto should place a phone call to Raila Amolo Odinga, and they do tea in State House and make a few promises and see what can be done, because the issues really between them are not national issues. The differences about them are metaphysical issues. They are not about Kenyans. Let them do a handshake. Let Kenyans have their peace back and go back to their businesses, go back to their lives, and we continue to lose no more lives as a country.
I do think that this matter has been counter-checked by the two guys, the president and the deputy president. Sometimes they feel, according to their own research, that wherever you invite the premier, the former premier, you're inviting problems to your camp, that they are fearing that when he comes to their camp, things are going to go the other direction.
Viewers, it's important to mention that Raila Odinga has considerable weight in this country as a politician and as a citizen of this country. This is one person who enjoys fanatical following across the country, and I think for no price. It does not pay anything for that following. When you have such a person who enjoys fanatical following at no cost, then you know you have to be very careful about this person. So I don't know where the fears from Raila, from the deputy president and the president come from, but it is because of the political weight that Raila Odinga comes. If he supports you, he comes with fanatical following from ODM and friends of ODM, so that if you are in parliament, he brings you supermajority of legislators, of senators, and even supporters on the ground who would support you for free fanatically. Such a support certainly is going to cloud perhaps the deputy president, Rigathi Gachagua, in one way or the other. Some other people are going to be clouded. But what benefit does Rigathi Gachagua, what benefit does any other politician derive if they are colorful and prominent, but the ordinary Kenyans' lives are stalling in Kisii, are stalling in Migori, stalling in Nairobi, in Mombasa, and several other areas of this country? Let these people do a handshake. I don't think it would require anything more than the president according Raila Amolo Odinga some special status without additional positions like Uhuru Kenyatta did. There was no benefit really in terms of positions. Raila Amolo Odinga was not given a cabinet portfolio, not a single one, but he was comfortable for a few years and Kenyans were at peace. This is not to say that Raila Amolo Odinga...
Does it mean that he doesn't demand necessarily too much?
From what we saw, because I am not privy to the communication between the president and Raila Amolo Odinga, yes. But from what we saw in the previous arrangement, yes, you could tell that Raila was listened to by the president, and I gave support to the president. I think the biggest beneficiary really that time was President Uhuru Kenyatta and maybe Kenyans who enjoyed peace. Yes. I don't think Raila Odinga got anything from the arrangement apart from the support for the presidency in 2022, which was not much for Raila Amolo Odinga. I actually think that he lost because of drawing closer to Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, because Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta lost his base, which drifted to the president. So in the same vein...
Wakil, is it a situation of ego that maybe the president would look like maybe he has calmed down, it's like he has bowed to the pressure from the former prime minister, and on the other hand, if Raila bows out, it will look like maybe he has feared William Ruto. What did it do to these two people or these two individuals back then, former President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila?
I think
compared now to what maybe we can see them we're expecting to be done by the two.
Thank you very much, viewers. What happened subsequently after the entry of Raila Amolo Odinga into the inner sanctum of power in 2017 was an attempt to amend the constitution and have an expanded executive and a number of things therein. Of course, sadly, the BBI arrangement was lost in the Supreme Court, and we are back to where we are. What is very important, and I think this is what we need to mention, is that the handshake was a political masterstroke for Uhuru Kenyatta, because he faced no more opposition anywhere in this country apart from pocket of resistance from the Deputy President William Ruto, which resistance was very mild because the Deputy President was also enjoying the trappings of power and never wanted to really rattle the President head-on. In the long run, Kenyans had their peace. In the long run, corruption thrived because nobody was fighting and talking about corruption again. So Kenyans got their peace, but I think they lost so much in terms of governance. If Raila Amolo Odinga was to have a handshake with William Samoei Ruto again, then we are not going to have people who are going to check the government. And Raila Amolo Odinga is very important for purposes of ensuring that government is accountable. And if I were him, I would tell him, Prime Minister, former Raila Amolo Odinga, please be a modest and decent person. You came second, you accepted the decision of the Supreme Court, please give the government in check. That is not to say that the President of the Republic of Kenya should not accord him respect as a runners-up and as a senior politician in this country. I think there should also be a working arrangement between Raila Amolo Odinga and the President. He should be listened to on a number of issues because he has massive support, but he should not blackmail the current government to give in to a lot of things which sometimes are not agreed to by the government. But as to talking cordial relationship, special status, I think he should be granted. He enjoys a special status in this country, and everybody knows. But as I have said again, the former Prime Minister should be a decent person who should not blackmail Kenyans. He lost the elections. He should accept that he lost the elections, should not revisit the issue. But on matters of IBC, I think Raila Amolo Odinga, though he's not consistent, has a point. We have an IBC that is supposed to be independent, but it is not funded. I say this because of my interaction with the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. This IBC does not pay suppliers. IBC is not able to pay creditors, because every time it wants to pay, it has to go to Parliament, speak to parliamentarians in a number of committees, so many stories, so that money is approved from the exchequer so that it comes and pays suppliers. We need to give the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission functional and operational autonomy so that it's able to pay, it's able to make critical decisions without having to beg the former Prime Minister or beg the sitting president for any favors.
Yeah. And Wakili Kagi, maybe before you just come up with that particular point, what would happen if this government, because there are those who actually even believe that this government is actually very ready and they're fully convinced that they need to ignore the opposition and the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. Can they really achieve their development program up to 2027 if they go through that particular route?
Personally, I think that Raila Amolo Odinga should be the statesman that he's been. That is, he should accept that he lost the election in 2022 as declared by the IEBC and confirmed by the Supreme Court. But having said that, it is important and it's incumbent upon the President of the Republic of Kenya to listen to Raila Amolo Odinga and give him a listening ear for the reason that this is a Kenyan who enjoys massive support.
He's not necessarily a nuisance.
He's not necessarily a nuisance. This is a person who has people, and I've mentioned he has near fanatical following across the country. You can no longer pigeonhole Raila Amolo Odinga to Kibra or to Nyanza. Even in Baringo, he was leading in Tiati constituency. He had about 40% in West Pokot. So this is a solid politician who should be listened to. But he should not blackmail the government and Kenyans. He should allow Kenyans to do their things in peace, but the president should, in the same vein, reciprocate by having a cordial relationship, speaking and consulting on a number of issues. The president does not necessarily have to implement what Raila Amolo Odinga tells him, but he should give him a listening ear and give him a special status. He's a special Kenyan, really.
Kagi, maybe just as we come to the
just
conclusion.
a small one, Wakili, regarding to the two houses, the Senate and the National Assembly. What is your take on the supremacy battle between the National Assembly and the Senate, even without mentioning again the issue of the arms of the government? But what should be done to end this conflict of interest in terms of their superiority muscles?
I want to tell viewers that the Constitution, which is very detailed, try to demarcate functions for Senate, demarcate functions for Parliament. Certainly, for example, when you say functions that affect the county, almost everything affects the county. What I think we need to do into the future is to review the Constitution, amend the Constitution, and make the functions of Senate and the National Assembly to be as clear as the day is, to make it as clear as sunset is, to be as clear as it can be. What English people say, crystal clear.
Yeah.
Having said that, I think senators and parliamentarians also should grow up. We do not have a child in Senate. We don't have a toddler in the National Assembly. The core function should be to serve Kenyans. The core function should be to oversight, to do representation and legislate. And where there is a dispute, the speakers of the two houses should be able to resolve this dispute amicably. Rushing to court to have your dispute resolved, to have your dispute settled, is progressive, but it's childish because you've been elected by Kenyans, by voters, to address issues of national concern. Fighting because of boundary disputes on your roles, I think is underwhelming. And I think I would tell parliamentarians to grow up. I would tell parliamentarians to stop this childishness and resolve issues within the houses. No wonder why Kenyans think that parliament has no role. No wonder why Kenyans think that parliament is an appendage of the executive.
And now that the parliament actually seems to have failed Kenyans, so when you're looking even into matters like the CSS, they might have not had any role, the finance bill. Will Kenyans take them home?
The interesting problem, the interesting thing again, viewers, about the leadership that we have in this country is as good as the voter. If you think Senator Cherargei is underwhelming, look at these voters. Who are his voters?
Right.
If you think, for example, that a certain member of parliament is underwhelming, who are his voters? I keep on telling Kenyans after doing a research on leadership and integrity under Chapter 6 of the Constitution of Kenya, and I would tell Kenyans again that the first line of defense for good governance, leadership and integrity is the voter. If you cannot elect Jim Nambaru, an entrepreneur, industrialist, and you elect somebody else, and you expect to thrive, and you expect to prosper as a country, it tells me that you can't blame the elected leadership. You should blame yourself because clearly you do not have a vision.
Wow. What a parting shot to bring it to a close for today. Much appreciation, Wakili Kipkoech, advocate of the High Court and also a political analyst. We are glad that you found time to be with us today in the Mid-Morning Park.
My pleasure. It is nice really having the viewers together with you, Kagi and Mangicho, and I will not hesitate to be here again when invited.
Always
Thank
welcome, and we are very grateful. And that is why we bring it to a close. What a candid conversation. Very great insights from our guest today in the Mid-Morning Park. We'll do it again next week at a time like this. For now, it's bye-bye. Enjoy the rest of your viewing. My name is Mangicho Mola.
Yes, once again, thank you for watching us. Until next week, God willing, my name is Paul Kagi. Bye for now.